I know how this video might come off, but I promised myself that I would be as honest as possible on this series because I really cannot bear to have a different online and offline personality. I'll say things as they are because the point of all of this is to talk about things that I feel like other people are also thinking, but feel like they've been muted by societal rules of behavior. And that used to be me as well, but not anymore. So I recently quit all of my well-paying jobs. Now, why I specifically call them well-paying jobs is not only because, well, they pay well, but more so because they reached a point where money was the only reason I was doing the job. And of course, people thought that I was crazy for dropping them. But it came to a point where even money wasn't motivation enough to continue. That's why I have to specify that they were extremely well-paying because it took a lot for me to admit the fact that I was doing it only for the money after a point, and that I was so unhappy that even that beautiful amount was just not satisfaction enough or reason enough for me to continue. There was a time though a few years ago when I genuinely enjoyed what I did. It actually gave my soul a lot of joy and satisfaction, and money was just the bonus that was coming out of it. But quite a while ago, it stopped feeling that way, and it finally reached a point of frustration where I felt like I had to take a step away and focus on doing what still brings me that joy and satisfaction, which is to be here in this room making videos and making music. Now, I fully recognize the privilege that I have to be able to make a decision like this. Because I live in my parents' house, all my food is taken care of, I have my own room, my own space, for which I have to pay nothing, and I can do whatever I want. I have all this equipment at my disposal. I have supportive parents and friends and a can-do attitude. But most of all, I have no consequence. I could decide to leave the jobs that were filling my wallet for work that fills joy in my heart but close to nothing in my wallet. And my life goes on as usual because I have that privilege with no consequence. I used to think that I can do it all. I can have the job in the day, I can work on my music at night, but it was impossible to manage and only getting harder and harder as time went on. And what had to take a back seat in the process was the one thing that actually made me happy. Still, I convinced myself to continue doing the job with the reasoning of I do the job so that it pays for the music. But because I was doing the job, there was no music being made. There was now no music to pay for because all my energy has already been drained in the process. And that started to become increasingly obvious and painful. I was too comfortable. I didn't think that was ever going to be a bad thing, but it turns out it's possible. I was too comfortable earning money because who doesn't like to earn money? And that, I feel like, in a way, made me complacent in terms of working equally as hard for my own music because that was earning me nada. And I thought about this long and hard, and sometimes I still do, drawing this comparison between me and other people in the industry, my friends even, wondering how they manage to do their day jobs and then also have time, energy and focus for their own music. And the answer was necessity. Most of them, if not all, have to do both. Well, they have to do one and they want to do the other as well. It's not like they wouldn't want to make music full time and just quit the soul-sucking job. But the reality is that life is expensive. The reality is that they have bills to pay. And that dawned a different reality on me, which is that I don't. This lack of responsibility of having to pay rent and bills and pay for food and yada yada, I feel like resulted in this lack of fire within me. And I know that's a very strange way to put it, but let me explain. It's not like I don't have the passion and the dreams and the goals. What I lacked, I feel, is the drive to fulfill them. Because if something didn't work out for me, it's of no consequence and life goes on. And that's not just because of the attitude that I have towards life, it's because of the life that I live. I will always have something to fall back on. And that is when I began glorifying struggle. I truly believed that I had to have struggle in my life. I had to have less comfort in my life in order to have that drive to do things. I had to have some kind of consequence or responsibility in order to push myself to get things done. So I quit my job. So one lifeline was cut off. But I can't cut off the one that I was born with. So I try to rely on it as little as possible. My driving factor now is to prevent future regret. I don't want to wake up 10 years from now wondering what might have been if I had just pushed myself a little bit more. It's been only a couple of months now since I have been technically unemployed. We sometimes like to call it self-employed. And I do believe that I made the right decision for myself. And my motivation to work has significantly grown. But of course, there are on and off days, there are good and bad days. There are days on which I feel like I can take on the world. There are days on which I feel extremely incompetent. Everything feels really, really difficult and I question these choices that I have made with my life. And I think about the future and go down various spirals. But until all the rugs have been pulled from under my feet, I will never consider myself somebody who is struggling. So the part of me that initially believed that only if I have it extremely rough will I be able to discipline myself to do the work that I have to, has slowly been fading away. I have been able to shift my mindset to a place where the motivation to work is the joy of doing the work itself rather than the necessity to have some kind of consequence or responsibility. While those matter as well, I don't want them to be the driving force for me because I worry that that might make me grow resentful towards the thing that I love the most. If I see it becoming something that I'm doing out of compulsion. I have the privilege of having my favorite hobby be my job, and that should be motivation enough without having to convince myself that I need to have hardships in order to have a drive to work. It doesn't have to be that profound.
If you thought INTP that, then you were dead wrong. Nah, I go way more in a monologue. And if you wanted, you could even sing along, cause it's nothing but a temporary theme song. You know there's so much more where they came from. I only rhyme every line to make it sound strong. For no reason, here I add a little gong. Yeah, cause the chances to be with a temporary theme song, y'all. Yeah.
Just a little temporary theme song, yeah.